what is the program? In the program, the children actually in the first part of the program learned about the Convention of Children's Rights, the International Convention. They learn about the principles of the convention, the different rights that are included in the convention, and after they understood the convention, they chose a country, they learn about children in that country, and the research was focused on one issue that they wanted to learn about in that country. The final stage was to write a speech that will summarize in 2 to 3 minutes the ideas, the concepts, the insights that they have after doing this research. I hope that you will have the patience to hear all of them. They are very excited. They are waiting to show you what they did through the year-long, very hard work, actually, that they did.
Why I'm so excited and enthusiastic about joining your meeting this morning. As a member of the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child, you need to know what our most important jobs are, our 2 most important. The first job is to push and convince governments of every country to do a better job at respecting the rights of all the children on their territory. The second job we have at the Committee on the Rights of the Child, and for today, it is the most important, it is to listen to children and adolescents and to support as much as we can any initiative that gives you a voice and an audience to express your views and your opinion. And as a member of the committee, I am really committed to doing all I can to strengthen the voices of children, your voices, on everything that matters to you. And I want to promote, and my colleagues as well, your right to express your opinions freely.
We're working very hard in Germany so that these children will be able to live a normal life. However, our challenge is huge. We are faced with integrating our inter-society children coming from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and from more countries in Africa. According to the DW Media Center, in 2020, we have taken in hundreds of unaccompanied refugees children that lived in refugees camps in Greece in really bad conditions. We must tell them to learn a new language so they can learn in schools, examine so we can provide the proper health services and suggest them a proper life where their lives are respected and their rights are implemented. You may understand that our aim is to improve implementing the rights of the children according to the Convention on the Rights of the Child. For example, Article 2 regarding non-discrimination, or Article 28 and 29 regarding equal, qualitative, and inclusive education. We suggest that the education systems will widen their channels of teaching and edit teachers that know the language and cultures of these children, so they can reach them better and understand their feelings and thoughts in the process of learning.
In conclusion, we believe that Germany will continue to do its utmost to give these children a chance for a better life. Thank you for listening. Let's make the world a better place together.
In Ethiopia, we would like to talk about the challenge to implement the equal right to education of girls. Hello everyone, we are in Bar Malamut, Eli Flash and Amit Glickman from Nofar Junior High School and former students of Rod Golda Meir School in Aria. We are the young ambassadors of Ethiopia.
We are pleased to note that in recent decades, there has been a dramatic improvement of 70% in the rate of enrollment and persistence of girls in elementary schools. This figure is based on UNICEF official data and studies on education in Ethiopia, on the World Education News and Reviews website, well known for publishing research data in the field of education. We still cannot say that there is a full implementation of the right to education for all girls, but with regard to the situation in the past, we can take a great pride in the improvements. However, a large part of the girls do not continue the studies in secondary and academic education. For example, boys made up 70% of all students in high schools in 2014, and only 35% of undergraduates for BA are women, with 5% dropping out in the first year of study. There are a number of reasons for this situation. Girls have a major part in supporting their families, so they're forced to leave their studies upon their family decision. Also, girls decide to drop out of schools because they claim they experience gender-related abuse.
Our important mission is to continue implementing the right of girls to have equal education, as required by Articles 2 and 29 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which deals with non-discrimination and equal and optimal education for girls and boys. We offer a number of ideas to improve the state of girls. First is to open empowerment groups for girls in order to give them tools to achieve the goals and dreams they set for themselves in education and beyond. Second is to open one-gender schools where only girls will be educated in order to improve the learning experience, adapt learning to their abilities and skills, and enhance their status as Ethiopian students.
ילדים יקרים, אנחנו מאוד מאוד שמחים לראות אתכם פה היום. אני חושבת שזו עשייה מאוד חשובה, מה שאתם עושים עכשיו, גם במובן של לימוד ארצות אחרות ותרבויות אחרות, גם במובן של לימוד האנגלית שמתלווה לזה. אתם תומכים אחד בשני, אתם עושים עבודת צוות נורא יפה, ואני חושבת שזה בטח ודאי יישאר לכם כחוויה להמשך הלימודים. אנחנו מאוד שמחים בזה ותומכים בזה, ותודה רבה למשרד החינוך, לטובה, ליוסי, לכל השותפים שלנו, לשגרירויות, וכמובן לבית הספר וההנהלה שלו, ולהורים התומכים, שאני מניחה שרובם נמצאים כאן. אז תודה רבה בשם העיר ובשמי, ואני אעבור לכמה מילים באנגלית. Honorable ambassadors and all our partners, dear partners that are here today, we think that amendments of and rights and children's rights are one of the most important things that we should teach children everywhere in the world, of course in Israel. Gender equality, social equality, speaking about racism and other stuff like this is so important in the younger ages. So I want to thank you very much for being with us, for being such wonderful partners, and for the Yadlin family and school for doing this thing for so many years, so successfully. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice day.
Sweden is one of the leading countries in implementing the rights of children. Children are an important social group building and developing our society. Today, I will talk about the challenge of implementing Article 33 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Every child has the right to be protected from kidnapping, sale, or human trafficking. I recommend to launch a campaign that will encourage people who know about any child who is a victim of trafficking to report it. We should raise our voices against it in Sweden and all around the world. Children can be a powerful force in raising awareness and causing change. I hope together with all of you to influence and promote a change. Thank you for listening.
The Convention on the Rights of the Child clearly states that children have the right to be protected from all forms of trafficking. And yet, it happens in Sweden and in Israel and in most countries around the world. And it's horrible, and I really thank Maya for her suggestions that I will transmit also to the relevant authorities in Sweden. As you know, the convention was adopted back in 1989, so it's 30 years ago, and Sweden was among the first countries to ratify this important convention. This year, actually, on 1st of January 2020, Sweden took this to another level, and in a, for us, historic step, decided to incorporate the convention into Swedish law. So the convention is not just applicable, but it is a Swedish law. Well, there have been a lot of studies done, and the government considered that despite the fact that the rights of the child have been, during the last 30 years, regularly reflected in all new legislation, these rights have not had sufficient impact on decision-making processes concerning children. The government considered that this child's rights-based approach should permeate all activities concerning children and young people. And by giving the convention the status of a Swedish law, it entails a clear obligation on all actors, not least the courts. And hopefully it will force all actors involved to make sure that the children's rights approach makes a real change, not just on paper, but also in practice. Toda rabba.
We're Shelley, Buffy, and Eva, the young ambassadors of rights of Uganda. And we will talk to you today about the impact of violence against children's safety and well-being. According to reports from the international news agency AFP and the Humanitarian organization that monitors the state of children in countries around the world, unfortunately, violence against children in Uganda is common. This violence has many expressions. One especially disturbing that our government has set up a task force to fight is the sacrifice of children in pagan ceremonies. The children are used for sacrifice and the ceremonies are done for so-called luck, health and financial success. Activists supported by the government say the situation is not a tradition but is done because of greed and sexual exploitation of children. Violence against children in Uganda is a challenge we must face. We see great importance in intensifying the protection of children and increasing enforcement in order to prevent these crimes against them. Out of commitment to the implementation of the Child Rights Convention, we are working against the violations of rights. For example, like Article 19, which states that every child has the right to be protected from any form of physical or mental violence, and Article 35, which requires states to prevent kidnapping, sale, or child trafficking.
I want to express my very, very deep gratitude for you that you learned it and that we heard it from you. I want to tell you a story. I wasn't born in Israel. I was born in another country, and we don't have the rights that you now in Israel have. We couldn't speak freely. We couldn't go to a university. And to my own children, I said every day, it's not, you can't understand if you didn't live in a country that violates some rights. But even now in Israel, you have to speak if you saw something is wrong. If it's wrong for you or it's wrong for your friends and maybe other people that you know. And you are the children are our future. You're going to be the citizens of Israel and the world. And what you're learning now will help everybody to live in a better place, in a better world, like the students before me already said. And I want to thank you all, especially to Tova and Yossi, to this great and I didn't imagine this emotion that I have now. And thank you all.
Today, we would like to talk to you about one of our challenges regarding children, poverty and its influences on young children's lives. According to a report published by the OECD of their family database website, the percentage of children living in poverty in Poland was approximately 10%, a rate shared by at least 11 other countries in the organization.
A research showing that Poland is one of the countries in Europe that had dealt successfully with poverty and decreased its level in the last years. So, as the situation is improving, we should still ask ourselves, what does it mean for a child to live in poverty? It means being deprived of basic needs like food, health care, education, and other basic needs. We can tell you that some children are going to walk instead of going to school, either by their family's demand or because they choose to do it to help the family in need. Many of them work in agriculture, and because the state considers education as a very important investment in children, it demands that they will learn on weekends and holidays. Having said that, we're aware of the violation of rights according to the Convention on Rights of the Child, for example, Article 2, dealing with prevention of discrimination, including on sexual economic background, or Article 28 and 29, requiring that every child will get proper education and not go to work.
We are facing the challenge of reducing poverty among children and investing in their future. Thank you for listening. Dziękuję bardzo.
za słuchanie.
Of course, there are many ways to preserve the child's dignity. The most fundamental of them is to raise awareness that the child's dignity is important at all times and in all circumstances. I cannot help thinking about all those children and teenagers who are being physically and mentally hurt on a daily basis all over the world. When I talk about children's abuse, the very first and apparently obvious image that comes to everyone's mind is an adult who treats a minor in an unethical manner. A parent, a teacher, a police officer, a clerk. The point is, it is not always the case. There is a swelling worldwide phenomenon of children abusing other children and teenagers trampling on the dignity of other teenagers. Because many of us are profoundly convinced that the most appropriate way to treat children respectfully is to invite them to our own world, the world of endless ethical choices, moral hazard, relentless competition, the corrupt world of blurred boundaries between good and evil. Treating children in a dignified fashion is not tantamount to perceiving them as adults. We should explain to them the intricacies of our universe, prepare them for all future dangers and likely unpleasant experiences. Nonetheless, we must not invite them to our world with open arms and unconditionally.
And I want to share our work, and I do it, and Moran will do it with me. So Yadlin School, the academic for young science that is named after the outstanding educator Naftali Yadlin, is a leading school in its field.
Our aim is that the students will be aware of their personal and social rights and responsibilities and act to implement these rights for all children in our country and in the world. A few years ago, we met the chief supervisor of students' rights, Mrs. Tova Ben-Ari. Together, we dreamed of turning the school into an educational center that promotes a culture of rights and responsibility among children. We began a meaningful learning process with the educational staff. We debated and thought together of different ways to implement this knowledge. We developed a curriculum based on the learning of the Convention on the Rights of the Child and its implementation in the classroom, as school in the community, starting from the first grade. Our next stage was to develop this unique pioneering educational program. This program, which implements the principles of the UN model and adapts them to elementary education, is multidisciplinary, both in Hebrew and in English. Students from grade 4 through 6 and the school staff participate in this program. Yossi Michal, the National Guide of Students' Rights, accompanied and guided us. And together we have developed the program in which students do a research about the state and the problem of children in countries around the world in light of their rights and suggest ways of action to help them.
I can tell that you've been studying very hard, and you've showed us that you've gained a lot of knowledge, not only about specific issues in given countries, but also about the Convention on the Rights of the Child. And I think you've come across with a very important idea, which is, and one of you mentioned it specifically, actually two of you, the notion that every child is precious. There should be no discrimination against any child. And I think that that should resonate as a very significant message. Every child is precious, should be protected. And to go along with the ambassador of Poland, whom I salute and I'm happy to see again, every child deserves that his or her dignity be respected and his or her childhood protected. Children should be allowed to be children. They should be, of course, empowered and given responsibilities to the best of their abilities, but they should also be protected so that they can be children and not be mixed up too much in the world of adults.
The ambassadors, the members, the embassies, the principals and teachers, and all honorable guests, especially to you, all of you students that presented to us situation rights, violation of children in different countries. I have learned from you. 20 years ago, I started my work as the chief, it's a long name, is a chief supervisor for implementation of children or students' rights. One of the goals I set for myself was to establish and promote a culture of rights in education policy. Today, I am proud to hear the students' dialogue with simulated thinking together with us, with you, on issues of children's rights everywhere in the world. Thanks a lot.
Today, we will talk to you about the big challenge in our country, the influence of early recruitment into the army on the lives of children in our country. Human Rights Watch organization identified as early as 2016 recruit of young boys and girls by Kurds and Yazidi military groups. The Office of the Special Representative of the General Secretary of the UN for Children and Armed Conflicts updates us back as 2019 of very disturbing numbers. Among them, 39 known cases of child recruitment, 132 cases of deaths of children in war, and at least 48 attacks on schools. What will be a long-term influences on these children, both mentally, emotionally, and physically? This situation violates the Convention on Children's Rights and especially Article 48, which states that the states must ensure that no child under the age of 15 will be recruited into the armed forces or will be used in armed conflicts. We propose to promote political legislation that will set a maximum age for military recruitment, like it's done in Israel, where the age of recruit will not be less than 17 years.
Good morning. It is a great honor for our school to take part in Young Ambassador Children's Rights program. Here I want to thank Tova the Chief Supervisor for Children's Rights in the Ministry of Education. In Hebrew, our school is called a dream school, Chalom, with the ideas of researching, learning about the discovering a personal, human, and ecological world. This program supports the goal of our school to learn about children's rights around the world. We believe that our students' ability to identify problems of children and to think of new creative solutions should be an ongoing process. This will lead them to a better society based on understanding and love. I want to thank my teaching staff, They worked with the student with the belief that the program will be a benefit for all.
Education in the United States is mandatory from the age of 5 to the age of 18. According to the site World Population Review, the United States education is ranked second in the world. Education in the United States is provided in public, private, and home schools. State governments set overall educational standards. Some of the world's best universities are in the United States. For example, Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. The United States spends more per student on education than any other country. This sounds amazing, and it is, but you'll be surprised to hear that in 2017, the average high school dropout rate was 4.7%. This might not sound like a lot, but there is still more room for improvement. But why? What are the reasons that so many children drop out of high school? According to educationdata.org, here are some. They didn't get good grades, they didn't need to graduate high school for their chosen career, and even because they simply didn't like school. Some kids even said that they dropped out of high school because their friends did. Life for high school dropout is hard. So what can we do about it? What solution can we suggest for this problem? Well, the main reason for high school students dropping out is because they got bad grades. So to prevent dropouts, we need to prevent these bad grades, or at least deal with them somehow. To help these students with bad grades, they need to build up confidence in themselves so they can get better. High schools can make support groups in which the students can learn to build up confidence, study for tests and groups, and ask for help whenever they need it. These support groups can be led by the staff members in shifts, and even students that want to help can volunteer.
An incredible opportunity because it gives you an opportunity to analyze and debate global issues and also build leadership skills. Looking at the issue of the American education system, I think that one of the things that I especially appreciate about the US is the promise of the American dream. And the promise of the American dream really is about equality of opportunities. And I think that, when we talk about high school dropouts, or even when we talk about transitioning to post-secondary school options, some of the better colleges, it's a known fact that it's much more difficult for children from lower socioeconomic groups to attend those colleges. So I think that while the US has done, an incredible job in terms of ensuring universal access to education, what we're increasingly seeing, both in the education system and as you pointed out, Noam, in terms of your future career, we are seeing what we talk about at the UN about people being left behind. Because one of the global commitments that we made with the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030 is that no one is left behind. And so that's ensuring that everyone has equal opportunities, whether it's in education, but also in decent work, and be able to realize their full potential. We know that in the rights of the child, it asserts that that children and young people have the right to facilitate that children and youth have the right to freely express their views, and that there is an obligation, that's our obligation as adults, to hear your voices, to listen to your views, and to ensure that you have opportunities for meaningful, safe, and appropriate participation, because this really is key for creating democratic societies with informed and engaged citizens. And we did see some of that today.
Kenya has a strong economy according to raw material per capita in East Africa. In addition, our country has a developed tourism industry, which means we host tourists from all over the world that come to enjoy. Alongside these important strong resources, we want to talk to you about a unique challenge we face: refugee children fleeing Somalia because of the droughts. According to the latest data that UNICEF published on September 2019, Kenya has accepted about 213,000 refugee children. How do we take care of almost a quarter of 1 million children without home and roots?
Although we do our best to supply the refugee children their needs, they still suffer from severe poverty, shortage of basic needs like food, water, healthcare, and education still need to improve. Kenya invests many resources in refugee camps, but with the non-stop stream of refugees is never seems enough. Article 22 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which states, member states have to put all their effort into ensuring that the refugee child's rights will be preserved and realized. We in Kenya are committed to implement the conventions for all children, including Abdul's friends. So what more can be done for them? We suggest raising awareness in Kenya and around the world for these children. We invite the children of Israel to participate in these efforts and believe in the power of children to make a change.
In Kenya, the government has implemented the convention by, firstly, through the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. We have the Department of Child Services within that ministry. We also have the Constitution of Kenya of 2010, which enshrines the rights of the child. In addition to the above, we also have the Children's Act of 2001, which domesticated the UNCRC. As at 31st of May 2020, I can confirm that the number of refugees and asylum seekers in Kenya is 494,874. Although majority of them are from Somalia, there are others that come from different countries. We had to accommodate these refugees, and we created 13 temporary refugee camps together with UNHCR's assistance, somewhere in Mandera, Banisa, Elwak, Ipo, Hagadera, all in the northern part of the country. Okay. Looking at the presentation from the young ambassadors, I would like to say that yes, the children from Somalia or other countries, when they come into Kenya, it's a different place, it's a different, they leave their families, some have difficulties adjusting, but it's not something that is only done by one country, it's done by many. And the assistance given so far has been to be able to teach these children. We even have some donors have given to create some schools for these students so that they do not go into working. In fact, the working at the age of 10 is not allowed. You have to be over 18 to work. So I believe that it is an issue that our country, Kenya, is still dealing with. We still welcome refugees from very many countries, and we have been a host for many years.
When was the last time you saw a child our age or younger working? Probably not often. Well, you'll be surprised to know this happens all the time in Afghanistan. As you probably think, this is illegal. According to Human Rights Watch International Organization, in the report, They Bear All the Pain, there's a law in Afghanistan that states 18 is the minimum age of employment. Unfortunately, this law is unenforced. According to a video published by Area TV channel on YouTube that intended for children and youth, 60% of Afghan children do not know how to read or write. Most of them are girls. There are three main reasons for poverty: the political chaos, the Afghanistan war, and the Taliban control. Poverty is one of the biggest problems that relate to child labor.
Although Afghanistan has its strong points, including mining that's important for their economy, there are things our country struggles with, including child labor. For example, we can observe that children are exploiting works in jobs that are inappropriate for their age. These jobs demand long hours of work in very difficult conditions. In other cases, if a child's parents die, he's sent to an orphanage, and when he finally gets adopted, his so-called family may turn him into a slave and force him to work. You can imagine the emotional and psychological influence of forced work on these children. This situation violates some important rights according to Convention on the right to education is violated because these working children are deprived of learning, and many of them grow without any knowledge about the world around them. Another important right is the right for not being economically abused, meaning that the laws and restrictions of child labor are known and being enforced.
There are many ways to solve this problem, but we chose to tell you about one that we think is good enough to start to solve it. We believe that all of you can actively write to our government and express your opinion about this violation of rights. Many voices can make a change, and if we'll get the help of all of you by donating books, school materials, and money to maintain school, we can start a change. This might take some time, but we think that it will definitely make things better. Books can be donated to school so that can offer them to students whose families are poor. Learning materials can be handed to families so they don't have to use the family income for this purpose.
Mahatma Gandhi, an Indian political and spiritual leader, said, if we are to teach real peace in this world, if we are to carry on a real war against war, we shall have to begin with the children. Healing the world, by all means, is so much relevant these days and for our children all over the world in the future. We believe that this special and meaningful project is a motivating experience for our students that will lead them to make a difference by caring and doing for others. Or as Jewish life leading quote says, "Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha."
The children were asking important questions regarding children's rights around the world and did their research looking for answers, for real answers. We are the world, we are the children was our opening sentence to this unique journey. Children learning about other children's difficulties around the globe made them to become very sensitive and empathetic. Most importantly, we believe and hope that our young ambassadors of rights are the leaders of tomorrow, the leaders of change. We can already see around the world that children can make a change. Children can change other children's lives all over the world through implementing the Convention of Rights of Child that they learned.
Since quality starts at our childhood, let us look at Section 2 of the Israel Education Law, 1953, which states the goals of education in Israel. Its goals says that the education system must give equal opportunities to every boy and girl, to allow them develop according to their own way and create an atmosphere that encourages and supports the difference.
Discrimination or gender inequality starts at a very early age, and it seems to continue in schools. A study from 2016 conducted by the Hebrew University in Israel and the University of Warwick in the United Kingdom showed that teachers discriminate against girls versus boys.
Is a gender bias among the teachers who graded in internal exams.
In a report published by the Research Center of the Knesset in 2017 regarding the policy on gender equality in the education system, it stated that in developed countries like Israel, there is a gender equality in implementing the right for education. But there are still challenges to be dealt with, like the fact that are still subjects that are more male-related and others that are more female-related. On the other side, we should mention that the Ministry of Education advances science studies for girls.
Another change we want to mention is the amendment to the Students' Rights Law, a unique Israeli law from 2014. The amendment states that no students will be discriminated on the basis of gender identity.
Do you think that if young people from Ethiopia and Israel meet, will they be able to think together and come up with new ideas of how to improve equal gender opportunities for girls and boys in our countries?
We are young people, which means that we will be challenged to come up with new ideas that may help to improve the lives of both boys and girls in our countries. We are flexible in our thinking and most likely want to meet teenagers from other cultures. Since we are digitally oriented and connected, we probably will have had some visual exposure, European and American cultures.
What is required from the students and the educational system to ensure the students' success?
To ensure that less students drop out of high school, we need to make sure they know the importance of graduating and help them where it is hard. We saw that one reason for dropouts was that the students simply didn't like school. And for that reason, we need to explain the importance of high school to them and make sure they know it's help in their future. The first steps of this process can be lectures from professionals who can help them realize the importance of their education.
How do you think we as children can help minimize the amount of child kidnaps?
As I said, we can raise the public's awareness to trafficking in Sweden and all around the world by telling the stories of the children who were kidnapped and publishing them in the social media and convince people to report the authorities. Also, we can make the punishment for child trafficking more severe so adults won't kidnap children.
Keep your passion. Stay passionate about what you're doing. Keep your capacity for indignation. When things are not right, don't accept it. Try to change things. Try to do better. And somebody said earlier, follow your dreams. Yes, keep your dreams alive and follow them, because if you don't have dreams, you become a grown-up. And that's the last thing you want to do at this point. But also, never give up learning. You know, learning is a funny thing. It's not only your homework, and I know you have to do your homework, but it's also valuing opportunities like we've had today to learn about what happens in the world, what other children think about them, to be able to ask each other questions. And one of the messages I have for you is, don't minimize your capacity to be creative and innovative.